sure I'm doing the perfect protocol.
You do it to was never the nature. I never lived in that.
Good evening. It is now 6 p.m. On Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, I'd like to call this council meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll, please?
Brenham,
Present.
Pugh,
Here.
McBride,
Here.
Livingston,
Here.
Teratio, Weaver,
Here.
Barron,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
English,
Present.
Newton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We have a packed house tonight, and we are having a few difficulties with our air conditioning, so bear with us, please. It's not you, it is us. Want to turn it over to invocation. Councilmember Jason Branham, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to invite Pastor Carl McAllister with Faith Church in Irmo to offer our invocation.
First of all, greetings from Faith Church in Ballantyne. I thank you for the privilege to be with you tonight. I trust you will join with me as we invoke the presence of the living God into our midst this evening. Let's pray. Sovereign Father, please be honored to visit us with your presence here tonight. For such a time as this, you have raised up these servants to lead us. Would you cause the love of Christ to compel them, even tonight in their deliberations? May patience and kindness rule this day. Please squelch all envy and boasting, arrest all arrogance and rudeness. May selfish insistence find no place in this meeting. Settle any irritability and overcome any resent. May no wrongdoing find its way into either discussions or decisions tonight. Instead, may each one rejoice in the truth. Father, may the love of Christ prevail for his glory and in his name. Amen.
Thank you so much. And Madam Chair, if I can, I'd like to ask those who are able to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is a presentation of resolutions of proclamation recognizing Black Maternal Health Week. I'll entertain a motion to vote on this for it to become a resolution.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Do you have,
I will, yes.
okay, I don't mind reading anything, I just don't have them. A resolution recognizing Black Maternal Health Week. The Black Maternal Health Week Collective initiated Columbia's inaugural observance of Black Maternal Health Week in April aiming to foster local understanding within the community. This week-long event, observed April 11th to the 17th, is dedicated to raising awareness about the status of Black maternal health in the United States and enhancing access to quality maternal health care throughout the community and state. Black Maternal Health Week seeks to provide awareness of the root causes of poor maternal health outcomes while advocating for a more diverse pool of doctors and midwives in rural areas to provide life-saving care for mothers as well as a healthier start for babies. The maternal mortality rate for women of color is much higher than other races across all income, education, and socioeconomic levels, and the vast majority of this loss of life is preventable with the proper and fair distribution of resources, particularly to the reproductive health care services and maternal health care programs. Black Maternal Health Week is an opportunity to fight to end the high rates of maternal mortality for women of color locally and globally, while advocating for greater equitable access to prevention, early identification, and effective treatment services to improve Black people's chronic health conditions and maternal health while bringing awareness to Richland County and the state of South Carolina. Now therefore be it resolved that Richland County Council members Jason Branham, Derek Pugh, Yvonne McBride, Paul Livingston, Allison Terratio, Don Weaver, Gretchen Barron, Overture Walker, Jessica Mackey, Cheryl English, and Shakise Newton hereby proudly recognize April 11th to April 17th as Black Maternal Health Week in Richland County, and the people who advocate tirelessly for this effort, for the exceptional contributions toward closing the gap of racial disparity among the maternal health programs, and for services for women of color to end disproportionately high maternal mortality across Richland County, South Carolina, and the world alike. And if my colleagues would allow, we're going to do something a little different tonight. After I read each one, we'll have a representative come forward and give a few remarks, and then we'll save the pictures at the end. So if you would, Ms. Sims.
All right, so we stand before you guys just delighted to kick off the first Columbia Black Maternal Health Week celebration honoring National Maternal Health Week, started in 2018 by Black Mamas Matter. I must say, when we started this, our talks of bringing a voice behind this week for our community, we didn't imagine the support that we would receive. It's been inspiring to know that so many around our state are concerned about what we are seeing happening in the communities of Black and brown families. We say as a collective, it is not about the events, but about the movement that comes after they have taken place. There is much work to do. We, the collective, which includes moms, fathers, family members, patient organizations, community birth workers, physicians, researchers, advocates alike, stand here in unity to ensure that the outcomes of our city and state change. We are grateful for partners like Richland County, so thank you all. At this time, I would like to recognize the collective that stands behind me, Tiffany Townsend, Kimberly Smith, and some of these may not be here, Candace Drew, Ashley White, Amy Caldwell, Dr. Carrie Claudia, Lee Hill, Latoya Lindsay, Karen Nolan, Lachey Price, and Dr. Diane Ravenel, and myself, Rhonda Sims, also representing the Preeclampsia Foundation, who continues to elevate patient voices in quality improvement. Thank you for all that you do. Many of them are serving in the day-to-day life of families impacted by inequalities, lack of access, and quality care for our families. I'm excited about the events that have taken place and those that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have a very special proclamation recognizing April 27, 2024 as Richland County Alumnae Chapter Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a not-for-profit organization founded in 1913 whose purpose is to provide assistance and support through established programs in local communities throughout the world. A sisterhood of predominantly Black, college-educated women, the sorority boasts more than 250,000 members since its founding. The Richland County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was chartered in 1994 by 44 dedicated Deltas from this community, determined to further the mission of the organization through sisterhood, scholarship, service, and social action. Since its establishment, Richland County Alumni has grown to more than 320 members and has awarded more than $200,000 in scholarships to deserving high school and college students, with another $30,000 slated to be awarded this year. The Richland County Alumnae Chapter sponsors an annual Jabberwock pageant for girls of all ages to encourage self-confidence and to prepare students for the pursuit of higher education. The chapter has made a particular effort to serve women and children through outreach efforts and programs like the annual Red Dress Luncheon for Heart Health Awareness and the Women and Girls Conference. Richland County Council gratefully acknowledges the foundational, historical, and public service leadership of the Richland County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in their 30th anniversary of monumental dedication to inspiring a life of public service in Richland County, and hereby recognizes their commitment to improving the economic, physical, and mental health, political, and educational service awareness within their community and beyond. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Richland County Council Chair Jessica Mackey recognizes April 27, 2024 as Richland County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated Day, and proudly recognizes the 30th anniversary of the chapter for exceptional contributions to our community and beyond. It is not the task of one individual, but rather the collective effort of a united community that fosters positive change and lasting impact. So, as a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Sarah, please.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Lavelle Thornton, and I serve as president of Richland County Alumnae Chapter. And on behalf of the 340 dedicated members of Richland County Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, I thank you for this prestigious honor. We stand on the shoulders of our courageous founders. RCA, which is our acronym, is a sisterhood called, committed, and ready to serve. For the past 3 decades, we have been dedicated to sisterhood, scholarship, service, and social action in the Richland, Lexington, Fairfield, and Newberry counties. We have given out over $250,000 in scholarships to promising young men and women. Our goal is to continue to transform lives and impact communities with programming and events. Again, we thank you for this anniversary proclamation, and behind me, the ladies in red, you will see some of our leadership with us. And we are here. It takes a village to raise a child. So again, thank you for this honor.
Next, we have a proclamation recognizing Ridgeview High School boys basketball team as 4A state champions. Councilman Walker. Yes, that definitely deserves a round of applause. I'll share this moment with Councilman Walker, and if you do us the honor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is indeed an honor to read this proclamation into the record. And before I begin, I noticed that there is a special member of the Ridgeview men's basketball team, Pastor Chris Levy. I didn't know you made the cut this year. I realized they had tryouts for theologians. But in any event, good to see you, Pastor Chris. Whereas it is with great pride and respect that I honor the outstanding athletic team of Ridgeview High School, a multi-champion team with accomplishments that include finishing ranked in the country, Chick-fil-A tournament champions, Class 4A state champions, 18 Max Preps, 22 ESPN, and 17 USA Today honors. And whereas the team members, Talon Staley, Yale Davis, Robert Wiley, Joshua Smith, Trayvon Smith, Joshua Van Kalen, Malachi Cooper, Reginald Mack, Corey Corbett, Tristan McCleary, Zachary Smith, Jayden Dunn, Jayden Pretty, Christopher Horton, Jalen Weaver, C.J. Moore, and Jordan Mack, with unyielding dedication and an unwavering spirit, achieved the pinnacle of success as high school athletes and have displayed remarkable talent and commitment to the sport. And whereas the coaches, Joshua Staley, Brian Sanders, Kenneth Hunter, David Smith, Chris L. Johnson, Christian Savage, Reginald Murray, and Darius Franklin, have demonstrated commitment to academic and leadership excellence. The Ridgeview High School coaches have also demonstrated their commitment and integral part in the exceptional achievements of the team members from whom they lead. Whereas the Ridgeview High School basketball team and their coaches have demonstrated to their school and to the community that success is their priority with the educational development of students through athletics, while holding the belief that a well-organized sports program meets the students' needs for self-expression, mental alertness, and physical growth. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Richland County Council Chair Jessica Mackey and Councilman Overture Walker hereby proudly recognize the Ridgeview High School basketball team and their coaches for their exceptional contributions to the world of high school basketball. We extend our heartfelt congratulations for their remarkable achievements and thank them for being a symbol of pride and inspiration to Ridgeview High School and to Richland County, South Carolina. And Athletic Director Mr. Rosefield, and as well as Coach Staley, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. My name is Brian Rosefield, the Athletic Director at Ridgeview High School. On behalf of our principal, Dr. Brenda Mack, we thank this council for all the support over the years. Of our main event is the Bash. It used to be the Bojangles Bash at Ridgeview High School, where we bring in some of the best teams from around the country. And lo and behold, we now have one of the best teams from around the country right here in Columbia, South Carolina. We have first-class coaches across all of our athletic department, first-class administrators, teachers, and, of course, student athletes and coaches here as well. But the man standing to my right is one of the most first-class men I've ever met, Josh Staley. We'll turn it over to him.
All right, first giving honor to God. I appreciate y'all allowing us to come in tonight and recognizing us. Just a quick synopsis, breakdown of the season. As you so eloquently read, we finished in the top 25 in all three major polls as the final rankings came out today. We finished top 25 ESPN, top 25 USA Today, and top 25 Max Preps, which is almost unheard of for public high schools if you know anything about that. But none of that really means anything to us. What I'm most proud of this group is over 97% of them were on the A, B, or all A honor roll all year long. So once again, we appreciate you all, and we will continue to represent Richland County and the state of South Carolina to the best of our abilities.
Thank you so much. And, Brian, you left off, the little bit of history. You guys are celebrating here today, but it was just, 2 years ago that the team came and sat in this same spot over here. And you guys had one of the greats, Gigi Jackson, sitting here with us as you won the state championship that year. So we truly are proud of Ridgeview High School and what you continue to do year after year for Richland County. And so we thank you. I know many of you aren't graduating, so we look for another one next year, and we'll be there to cheer you on and help in any way that we can.
Chair, if I
You're
may,
recognized, sir, yes.
And I always defer to my chair. I want her to have the last word, but I would be remiss if I did not highlight that Ridgeview High School is located in District 8. And when you all were here 2 years ago, look, I said it then, we build champions in District 8. And so here we are, the last 3 years, we've got 2 championships. And in most places in the sports world, they call that the beginning of a dynasty. And so, again, congratulations. I'm super proud of you all. There's nothing else really that's left to be said.
We can leave others to decide if it's more to be said. Go ahead.
But in any event, though, no, it's not that I'm just proud, but this evening when I went over to meet the young men of the Ridgeview basketball team, and the first thing I asked them about was their grades. And they all said, Councilman, we're good there. And they said it very matter of fact, very forward about it. They didn't hesitate. But I want you, young men, to understand the importance of what you have achieved. Oftentimes, we don't really talk about the connection between sports and real life. And you all were able to achieve what you did this year because of teamwork. And what you're going to find out when you become adults is that a lot of your successes in life come as a result of working as a team and cooperating with others. Practice. You've heard that ad nauseum from your coaches. But when you become adults, you have to understand that whatever it is that you do when you become an adult, you have to practice at it. You have to work at your craft. You be the best at it. Whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a doctor, an engineer, or if you go into landscaping, if you go into business, whatever it is, you have to work hard at it to be the best. And you're going to find out that life, very much like sports, is one big competition. And of course, you don't achieve the heights that you did this year if you don't know how to persevere and have that spirit of resilience, and you bounce back from those tough times. You're going to find that out that when you become adults, you're going to have a lot of challenges in life. So take this moment in. It says a lot about you as young men. And again, we are just super proud of you. You make our community proud. And let's run it back again next year, okay?
So tonight, we don't oftentimes have this many proclamations or this many people in attendance, but all three of these proclamations are worthy, and we're grateful to hear and acknowledge so many of the good efforts that are happening in Richland County. And we are proud to be able to help amplify, Black Maternal Health Week, my lovely Sorors of Richland County Alumni, and Ridgeview High School. And I cannot forget Dr. Mack. Thank you, Dr. Mack, for all you do for the students. Thank you. So this truly is a good night, and we're happy that you're all here to celebrate in it. So first, over at the seal, we'll have the group of Roe. I see everybody come on over.
You want us to get on the corners? Okay.
See almost everyone. Almost, no, we cannot see him. Yeah, I can see everybody over here. That looks good over there. That's good. hands and yeah.
You can see it now.
There you go. All right. Okay, that looks good, y'all. Hold that for me.
Okay.
All right, right here, guys, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Hold out. Another 1, 2. Look here. Right here, hold that. Right here, guys. And one more. Thank you.
And it was a little cool today. So you know, I said, let me see if I can get some of this wear out my winter clothes. Just I would have fallen out.
They thought about you.
Oh, I don't like the one. I like brown.
All right, right here, guys. Look at me. On 3, 1, 2,
I'm
3. One more right here, guys. Let me just get one more. Thank you.
We got 2 more. Sorry.
Christian, have you read suicide? They can do suicide. That was a good campaign speech. Oh, stop.
Hey, listen, we already knew what time it was.
Yeah, y'all can slide over a little bit more. There you go.
you go. Now we have room for you there.
Yes, that's fine.
All right, everyone. Next item is item 6 on the agenda, approval of minutes from our regular session on March 19th, 2024. Have a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Pugh,
Yes.
Brenham,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair,
You recognize Ms. Mayor?
I'd like to have a point of personal privilege.
Yes, ma'am.
We were doing a lot of celebrating, and I'd be remiss if I didn't make comment about those mighty Gamecocks. So just on the record, I want to congratulate Coach Don Staley and the Lady Gamecocks for a national championship win. Go Cox.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barron. That is definitely something we needed to acknowledge, so
We
thank
did.
you. Thank you. Next is item 7, adoption of the agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
So I heard a motion and a second. We're now in discussion. Councilman Branham, you recognized? Did you say something?
I would request a friendly amendment to the motion so that item 15E is removed from the consent agenda portion of the meeting, so that there can be discussion on it tonight.
At 15E,
Yes, the gravesite and cemetery protection.
requesting amendment. The maker of the motion was Mr. Walker.
Yes, I was the maker of the motion, but help me out, Councilman Branham. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, might be recognized.
You recognize?
Councilman Branham, could you help me out? What was your motion again?
That we would adopt it, but my ask is to remove item 15E from the consent agenda, so it's part of the discussion portion of the.
Well, I would say, Councilman Branham, let's wait until we get to the consent items. At that point, once we get there, you can just, someone inevitably will make a motion to approve all the items, and then you will probably make a motion at that time to have that item removed from consent for discussion. So I think, probably the most orderly way to do it is just wait until we get to that part of the agenda.
Thank you. Administrator Brown, you recognized.
Yes, Madam Chair. On the consent agenda, there is item 15G. That item needs to be, we're requesting the item be removed. There's some additional information that needs to happen before this item is ready for council. So we're asking to completely remove that item from the agenda.
Thank you.
15G.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Administrator Brown has requested removal of item 15G. Any further discussion? All right.
I just want.
Mr. Branham, you
thank you.
recognize.
Councilman Walker, would you accept the friendly amendment? I mean, I feel like we could either do it now, or I can, just have to remain vigilant to catch it at the right moment later.
I don't want you to remain painfully vigilant, Mr. Branham, so I'm okay with it. That's fine. I accept
Thank
the
you.
friendly amendment.
All right, so we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented with removal of 15G completely, and then removal of 15E as an elephant from the consent. Did I get that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Next is item 8, report of the attorney for executive session items. Attorney Wright, you recognized?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have 3 items for executive session. The first is A, Department of Public Works Engineering, Springwood Lake High Hazard Potential Dam Rehabilitation. B, Richland County Workforce Training Center. C, Property Inquiry, 1221 Gregg Street. And we have B and C, we do have outside counsel present for.
Thank you. Based on council rules, items that require outside counsel, we do take up at the beginning of the meeting. So I'll entertain a motions for items 8, B, and C.
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion and second, is there any discussion?
Yeah,
Ms.
just
Newton, you recognize?
quick discussion. I don't want to belabor this when we have people waiting, but if item 8A is brief, could we, for efficiency, just take all 3 items now?
We would have to make a motion, to suspend our rules to do so?
That's okay. That was just a question.
All right. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Thank you. We are now in executive session.
Bride.
Yes.
Livingston. Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Barron. Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English. Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. I will state that there was an error before going to executive session. Item 8B was the only item discussed in executive session. 8C did not require outside counsel. No action was taken during executive session. All right, number 9, citizens' input.
Madam Chair,
You're recognized, Ms. English.
I move to allow the administrator to write the letter of support for, am I doing that right? For training purposes. What's the name of it? Training Center, thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Second.
We've already had a second. We're in discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Branham.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Barron. Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes,
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
For
ma'am.
reconsideration.
A motion for reconsideration. Second. Madam Clerk.
Branham.
No.
Pugh.
No.
McBride.
No.
Livingston. Teratio.
No.
Weaver.
No.
Barron.
No.
Walker. Mackey.
No.
English.
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you. Next is item 9, citizens' input for items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. Councilman Pugh?
Ma'am, no one signed up to speak.
Thank you. Next is citizens' input must pertain to Richland County matters not on the agenda. Items for which a public hearing is required or a public hearing has been scheduled cannot be addressed at this time. Vice Chair Pugh?
Madam Chair, no one signed up to speak.
Thank you. Next, item 11, report of the county administrator. Administrator Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of council, item 11A will be addressed after your last executive session. Going to move on to item 11B. Under this particular item, you have a request that has come by way of McIntyre. We have gone through this process with them before. If you're able to look at page 17 of your agenda packet, you will see that staff recommends the approval that McIntyre is requesting, McIntyre Joint National Guard Base, to purchase property that is identified in the tax map number is listed there, R30400-01-19. This is a part of their airfield clear zone program. The value of the land that would potentially be removed from the tax rolls if you approve this request by McIntyre is $7,100. That's how much the current 41.5 acres that they are seeking to purchase would be removed from the tax roll. This is a part, if you look at the regulatory compliance section, this request comes from them as a part of their one-way program. Specifically, it says Air Force airfield clear zones begin at the end of the runway for airfields operated by the Air Force and are rectangles that run along the extended center line of the runway. Installations previously granted permission for reduced size clear zones for their Class B runways will now have to reflect the 3,000 foot by 3,000 foot clear zone in all air installations. So this is now something that they are required to do, and so they're seeking to get the additional property that will bring them in compliance with their necessary standards. So that's why staff is approving this as a CMB requirement for McIntyre purposes. So that's staff's recommendation.
Madam Vice Chair? I'm sorry, Madam Chair. My apologies. Madam Chair?
Recognize.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion, a second, any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Branham.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair,
Recognized.
move for reconsideration.
Second.
Motion is second. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of council, the only other thing I'll do is I'll just draw your attention to some of the letters that I previously discussed, but I wasn't able to provide. So in your packet, roughly on about pages 26, 27, and 28, you just see the letters that were provided by the agency heads from the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Health and Environmental Control, and the Department of Social Services, just communicating their appreciation for the process that the county went through as a part of the Family Services Center, and just talking about their support of what the county has done. So that was their official documentation, and I did tell them that I would provide that so that it would be a part of the record. And with that being said, Madam Chair, that concludes my report, other than what questions you may have for me on this evening.
Thank you, Administrator Brown. We appreciate your hard work. Next, item 12, report of the Clerk of Council.
There are none at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, report of the Chair. Don't have any updates at this time. Next, item 14, open and closed public hearings. 14A, an ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16, Licenses and Miscellaneous Business Regulations by adding Article 7 entitled Short-Term Rentals, so as to establish certain requirements for properties being used as short-term rentals, to define necessary terms, and to provide penalties. Vice Chair Pugh, anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Madam Chair, we have 3 people that signed up to speak. The first person is David Bergerman. Mr. Bergerman, please come to the mic, state your name and your address for the record, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Council. My name's David Bergman. I live at 560 Regatta Road, Columbia, South Carolina. Here today as an advocate for short-term rentals and the community, and also as an owner of a small business, Heartwood Furnished Homes. We're a boutique property management company that specializes in providing short-term rental accommodations. We take great pride in providing economic growth to Richland County. We employ over 30 full-time people, and we've had about 15,000 guest stays in the Midlands just over the past year. In preparation for this meeting, I exported our company data from Airbnb, which collects and remits state and county occupancy taxes on behalf of hosts in the counties that we operate. Our company alone, not inclusive of other hosts, has remitted over $400,000 in occupancy taxes just in 2023. I can't stress enough how many guests we are hosting and how many travelers in the county, in the country, have adopted and now are only using alternative accommodations like Airbnbs when they're planning their visits. And that is even more pronounced in rural areas where they have fewer other accommodation options. That's why I volunteer and sit on the Richland County Accommodations Tax Committee, because we have unique guests, usually younger and more diverse, coming from all over the country to stay in our alternative accommodations, home-based lodging, and we want our accommodation dollars to help promote all the great things that Richland County has and that our guests are looking for. Common reasons for stay are Congaree Park, Fort Jackson, local sporting events. These locations often don't have the accommodation capacity to support the visitors that they bring in. So we partner with Experience Columbia, Lake Murray Country, to increase the availability of our alternative accommodations in the Midlands. Now, when I read this ordinance, I thought it was great. Richland County is following in the footsteps of City of Columbia.
Mr. Bergerman,
yes.
That's your time, sir. Thank you.
I'd just like to ask everybody to vote against it because we'd like to change the LDCs.
Thank you, Mr. Bergerman. Next, we have Ms. Wendy Bergerman. Ms. Wendy Bergerman, could you please come to the mic, state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes to speak, ma'am.
Yes. I am David's other half. I'm Wendy Bergman. We live at 560 Regatta Road in Columbia.
I won't restate kind of what he did, but I'm a co-owner of Heartwood Furnished Homes. Back in November of 2022, Councilman Malinowski stated that the purpose of regulating STRs in Richland County was not to put anybody out of business, but to enforce standards and guidelines of conduct. However, we're here almost 2 years later, and the exact opposite has occurred with the initiation of the 2021 Land Development Code on March 1st. I know we're here to talk about the ordinance today, but the ordinance only really applies to about 10% of existing STRs in the county today, as 90% or so are now not permitted per the LDC. So 90% of the business license fees and taxes are not going to be foreseen for the county based on this nuance in the LDC that was not made aware to us as the stakeholders prior. Unlike neighboring City of Columbia and Lexington County, we were involved in the discussion. We were invited to the table. We are finding out about this after the fact. The ordinance is fine. It's totally fine. But we're not allowed already as it is. So we're asking everyone to kind of look back. We've written multiple emails. I know I've written to you all personally a number of times. But let's open this back up and look at what the benefits are to the Midlands. We all see value here as the STR host community. It's provided a lot of benefits to our employees and the people that stay with us. We're helping the local economy. We have a lot of Scout Motor people coming in and looking for places with us. Fort Jackson is another big driver for unincorporated Richland County, of course. And we want to be able to keep welcoming these folks into our community because they are making it better, even though they might not be full-time residents here yet. Please vote no to Article 7 in today's agenda, and I encourage you all to open up the discussion and amend the LDC to allow more of our STRs in R2 through R6. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bergman. That's all we have signed up to speak, Madam Chair. Sorry, I apologize. Mr. Brad Swanson. Mr. Swanson, if you come, state your name and your address for the record, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Brad Swenson, 7716 Layton Road here in Columbia. I'm a property manager with PMI. It's the #1 property managing franchise in the nation. My company last year started, we had 10 properties that we managed. We now manage 18. We paid out over $43,000 last year with those 10 properties to small businesses. A personal story of one of my owners. They're in a 3-year military stint in Italy. They want to be able to move back into their home when they come back in 3 years. Long-term does not allow that. Short-term, they can move back into their home in 3 years when they return. I have several current guests who are working on the Columbia Richland Mall renovations, the new construction at the State Public Education Building, and traveling nurses that don't want to stay in a hotel for 3 months. I have 3 current guests that are displaced due to water damage in their homes. Many of our guests are coming here for military graduations that happen weekly at Fort Jackson just to cook their kids a home-cooked meal. Visiting sons and daughters at USC, visiting grandchildren, or moving here for a closing on a home or new construction on their home. In addition, STR owners and managers must keep their property in pristine condition. If there's any issues with the home and we get bad reviews, we're not allowed to, we don't make money for the owners. Those of us invested in STR, we use licensed and insured vendors to make sure the asset is well maintained for the owner. In contrast, long-term renters and property managers generally don't care about the property maintaining the landscaping, which becomes an eyesore for the community. This is not the case with short-term rentals. In conclusion, I feel STR and property managers, owners, are being unfairly singled out without really understanding the entire process, the level of capital, and the constant maintenance that we give to the property each week. I strongly suggest that you reconsider this and vote no against it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes everybody that signed up to speak.
Thank you. Next is item 14B, an ordinance authorizing a quit claim deed to Bobby J. and Nancy Y. for unused right-of-way.
Madam Chair, no one signed up to speak.
Attorney Wright, did not correct.
Excuse me?
You didn't correct me tonight. I know. Public hearing is now open. Public hearing is now closed.
Right.
I need to go back and say it.
No, you can just say it for
Okay,
for the
thank you.
entire thing.
All right. Item 14C, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of an infrastructure credit agreement to provide for infrastructure credits to Colite Technologies LLC and other related matters. Vice Chair Pugh, did anyone sign up this evening to speak?
Madam Chair, no one signed up to speak.
Thank you. This public hearing is now closed. All right. Moving on to item 15, approval of consent items. Item 15A, an ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 16, License and Miscellaneous Business Regulations by adding Article 7 entitled Short-Term Rentals so as to establish certain requirements for properties being used as you're recognized, Mr. Walker.
I move to approve items. I have 14 on my agenda. You said 15?
Yeah, we have a new printed.
Okay, well, item 15A, B, C, D, and G.
F.
No, I'm sorry, F, D, and F.
Second.
Motion to approve consent items 15A, B, C, D, and F. Motion is second. Any discussion? Councilwoman Barron, you recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak briefly to item A, which is the short-term rentals. And I will
Madam Chair, if I may be recognized, just a point of order. It's
You're recognized.
It's my understanding with these being consent items, that the rules prohibit discussion unless there's been a motion made to remove that item as a consent item.
Well, I'd like to make or ask for a friendly amendment if I could, Madam Chair, to remove that item A.
Okay. Just want to confirm
I accept
the
the amendment.
rules.
Yes, that's correct.
And I accept the amendment, Ms. Mayor.
Recognize Ms. Barron.
Thank you. So I do want to speak to that item of short-term rentals. We've received a lot of emails, and I will say in full disclosure, I preference short-term rental when I travel. And I will say that as being a member of the committee that this item came out of, I traditionally don't vote against items that come out of a committee that I'm in, but I am concerned and I have some unanswered questions about what this ordinance does to many of these businesses. And so I'm going to vote no on this item just because I don't have all the answers that I need for how short-term rentals as well as how they're being impacted by this ordinance in conjunction with our LDC. So again, I'm going to vote no on this item.
Thank you. Next, we have Newton, Livingston, Walker, Weaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for addressing this. And I won't speak for staff, but as the chair of the committee, I think that there are two distinctions to make. And so we are receiving a lot of emails, it's true, about where people can have short-term rentals. Those decisions are solely housed in the Land Development Code. Nothing that we do tonight or don't do affects that. Amending the Land Development Code as an ordinance takes 3 readings and a public hearing and can be handled separately. The motion that's before us tonight is simply a motion that allows us to register any short-term rentals that exist. If we do not adopt this motion, not to change your vote, but if council doesn't adopt this motion, then that puts us in a situation where, because the Land Development Code is in effect, we then have no authority, no record keeping, no regulation over something that already exists, and it puts us behind the 8 ball. So personally, and I also prefer short-term rentals, and have since, my kids were little and I got tired of the front desk of the hotel calling me. I do think that we need to have a conversation about short-term rentals and look again at the land development code. But just to be clear, that is totally separate from this. This says we ask short-term rentals to identify themselves, to be registered, and to be tracked so that if they want to exist in Richland County, we can have a system. Because our previous land development code actually doesn't allow any short-term rentals to exist at all. And so this is to bring everything into the light and to give us record keeping. And so our business office is kind of nodding. Not that that changes your vote, but just to clarify, two separate things. Do I think we should revisit that part of the LDC? Absolutely. This just says if you're a short-term rental, please register and pay taxes.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Mr. Livingston.
My point should have been made.
Thank you. Councilman Walker.
Ms. Newton eloquently, stated exactly what I was thinking, and as I was just listening to the comments from the public, what I picked up on was that we were conflating the land development code and its prohibitions with this ordinance, which merely just compels owners of short-term rentals to not only register but also pay an accommodation tax along with a business license fee. So again, that's what jumped out at me, and Ms. Newton, you hit it on the head. So thank you for encapsulating exactly what I was thinking.
Councilman Weaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the need for regulations, but I think we're rushing this thing too much. I still have more questions than I have answers. And if what these folks are saying tonight is true, that this is going to do away with a lot of their business, I just don't see the urgent need here. I think council needs to fall back and spend a few more months nailing this thing down correctly, because I'm afraid we're going to do more damage than we're doing good. So there's no way I can vote for this tonight. I just have too many unanswered questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Bear.
Yeah, and thank you, Ms. Newton, for expressing and explaining, what we are doing today. And I'm quite clear about that. For me, I think it's important that because the two are being discussed together, for me, it is my preference to vote no. It is my preference. So I'm clear about what we're doing tonight, and I still support the work that we did in our committee. I want to be certain about what it is we are or are not doing. And so because I'm not, then I'm choosing to vote no.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Oh, sorry.
Just a question for our attorney.
Mr. Livingston. You recognize.
I saw that look and you recognize. Just quick, you familiar with that?
Yes.
Let's say, for example, even if council chose not to even take any action at all on this item tonight, the concerns that are expressed would still be concerns, wouldn't it?
Yes, as Ms. Newton stated, there are two separate things. The issue that was discussed tonight is with the LDC, not the short-term rental that you're voting on tonight. As was stated, this is just asking anyone who does short-term rental to register, basically. But the issue that has been discussed is actually with the land development code, which this vote won't affect that at all.
And that's what I want folks to understand, that this vote doesn't affect that. Even if you did nothing tonight, if you didn't vote on this.
Right. If you vote it down, it's still going to be the same thing. If you vote for it, it's still going to be the same thing. Right. Either way you vote, it's still going to be the same thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anytime, Mr. Livingston. Ms. Newton?
Yes, and just 60 seconds to say something slightly differently. Again, for the listening public and for people who've been sending us emails, nothing in what we're voting on tonight prohibits or inhibits short-term rentals in any way. It doesn't say we won't have them. It won't say thou shalt have them. It doesn't say where they can be or where they won't be. It says if you exist, register.
Hey,
Well, and pay,
taxes.
I was thinking that in my head, but let me say it out, and pay taxes and a business license. Again, because our previous code didn't technically allow short-term rentals to exist at all. Only the recent land development code that we passed actually makes them legal in Richland County.
Thank you. So as a reminder, the original motion was for items 15A, B, C, and F. So this vote would be for all items.
No.
Did somebody pull it out?
Yeah.
Did she pull it out? Okay, all right. So 15A.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think this vote is actually for B, C, D, and F. The one for the short-term
Short-term
rental, A,
rental,
will
she
be
wants
separate,
separate.
right?
All right. 15B, C, D, and F. Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair, I move to approve item 15A.
Second.
Motion and second for 15A. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Next is 15E. An ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, offenses by adding Section 18-10 so as to prohibit the desecration of a gravesite, cemetery, or burial ground and to provide penalties. First read.
Move to
Madam Chair.
approve.
Have a motion?
Second for discussion.
Have a second. Councilman Brandon, you recognize.
Thank you. Sounded shocked when you read the title of this ordinance.
This is what happens when you look at your agenda and you only read the first few sentences and then you read it all.
Yeah. I do get images in my head when I see this title. During the committee review of the proposed ordinance, I'll say I really appreciate all the work done in the drafting and the making this a priority. I think it's very good for the community, and I like a lion's share of the initial draft of the ordinance, but I did raise a couple of concerns just as it related to kind of the future implementation and wanting to make sure that people that apply with the draft ordinance would know what the strike zone was. So after making those comments in committee, the Assistant County Attorney Ziegler was kind enough to draft some modifications to the ordinance. And so I want to just read briefly the part of the ordinance that he modified. And I think just basically the last longer paragraph, I think it's section 1D, kind of right at the end there. Maybe the county attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but the new language that's proposed that I would ask be adopted by this body is that no further ground disturbing activities shall commence until the site has undergone inspection by the Department of Community Planning and Development Services, and a plan to mitigate disturbance of the gravesite has been prepared for the person or company undertaking the ground disturbing activities. Upon completion of such inspection and acceptance of the prepared plan, the department may authorize further ground disturbing activity with applicable state and local law. And I did circulate that to the body via email just earlier today, so I know it wasn't much time given, but that's my ask, is that if we could substitute the motion to the extent necessary to adopt what I just read out there.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second for 15E. Madam Clerk?
what I just read out there.
was that a substitute motion? I'm not sure
I
exactly.
caught a motion to approve earlier.
Yes.
And so I
And we're in
guess a friendly
discussions.
amendment, first I'll ask for a friendly amendment on the motion.
Whatever it takes to.
Right. So yes, I think he's asking for an amendment to the motion.
I accept a friendly amendment or substitute motion, whichever.
Thank you. If there's a second needed, I'll second it.
Second.
Discussion.
Ms. McBride, you.
With the amendments that you made of the substitution, did you confer with other staff members besides legal?
Yes, and ACA Jensen via email that I shared just earlier today confirmed that they were comfortable with that proposed course of action.
Will this staff be responsible for the investigation?
Madam Chair, if that's okay, could we have ACA Jensen speak to that briefly?
ACA Jensen, you.
I don't need a lot of, Madam Chair. I don't need
So ACA Jensen, if you would be succinct
Yes.
in your response. Thank you.
That's it. Yeah. Ms. McBride, yes, my team in conservation will be responsible and will be conducting those studies.
You good, Ms. McBride? Okay. You recognize Ms. Livingston.
This is the first reading item, correct?
That's correct.
Since I don't see that language, can you make sure in the second reading it's highlighted so that we'll know clearly what it is that's been added?
Yes, in second reading, it should be highlighted anyway because it's a change.
Madam Clerk.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair, oh, sorry.
Recognized.
Do any of these items need to be reconsidered?
Yes.
All of them?
Third reading.
You can't
Oh,
do
sorry,
the,
that's true.
no first reading items,
I think 15A.
but all the other items.
Move to reconsider item 15A.
Second.
Second.
And, I withdraw that motion. I move to reconsider item 15A and F.
Second.
Motion is second for reconsideration for 15A and F. Madam Clerk.
Branham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston. Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
No.
Mackey.
No.
English.
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Madam Chair,
Recognized.
may I have a quick point of personal privilege?
Sure.
Be less than 2 minutes, because I know we talked about this in the committee meeting, but item 15F, the utilities Green Lake Gravity Sewer Rehabilitation, that those few words actually don't encompass a great amount of work that our staff did to secure this grant for this community. Our staff went above and beyond, worked extremely hard to make this happen, and their hard work was only exceeded by the work of the Green Lakes neighborhood that came together, had neighborhood meetings, knocked on doors, talked to neighbors, made phone calls, and did everything that good neighbors are supposed to do to make something good happen for the community. And so because of this, Richland County is getting funding that will allow us to repair a sewer system that needs repairing, that will make it better for really all the taxpayers who participate in that system. So I just want to thank the staff and want to thank the Green Lakes neighborhood, because hard work made that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Next is item 16A, an ordinance authorizing a quitclaim deed to Bobby J. and Nancy Y. Spivey for unused and unopened right-of-way on Lake Dogwood Circle South. This is a third reading item.
Move to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second? Second?
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Next is item 16B, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of an infrastructure credit agreement to provide for infrastructure credits to Colite Technologies LLC and other related matters. This is a third reading item.
Madam Chair,
You recognized.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
You're recognized,
Just
Councilwoman
to,
Horatio.
just to state, I know that they say there's a statement about 75 new full-time jobs. Do we have a number about what the pay is for those jobs?
Average wage is $75,000.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you. Director
just making-
Rubel, did you want to add anything to that?
Did you just make that up?
He might have, I don't know.
That's Mr. Rule.
He's ready for you.
Okay, I see a nod. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Did you have anything? No. All right, Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Move for reconsideration.
Motion and a second for reconsideration. Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, question, is that for A and B or just for B?
Make of the motion, is that for A and B or just for B?
For both.
Reconsideration for 16A and B.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston, Teratio,
No?
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English, Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank you. Next is item 17, first reading items. 17A is authorizing the imposition of a 1% transportation sales and use tax within Richland County pursuant to Section 4-37-30 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina in 1976, as amended, determining, 1, the categories of projects to be funded with the tax, 2, the maximum time for imposition of the tax, and 3, the estimated capital cost of the projects, directing the Board of Voter Registration and Elections of Richland County to conduct a countywide referendum on the imposition of the tax and the issuance of general obligation bonds, prescribing the contents of the ballot, questions, and other related matters. I would like, before I entertain a motion, I would like to just say a few words on this item. In your packet on page 139 to 149, you will see official draft language. The County Council, we have approved a timeline in relation to the Penny Road map and looking at our transportation needs assessment and our process moving forward. This is a first reading, but in the language in this ordinance, you will see there's several of the content is within parentheses, meaning that this is not permanent content, meaning that we are still discussing this content. We will still have public involvement. There will still be engagement from the TPAC and further work sessions. But there's also is the ability to put language out so that we are being transparent with the public and having the information available for folks to view as we move forward with the conversation. But this is not the final by any means. So I want to make sure that we're clear about that and that council intends to continue to receive feedback following our roadmap and our schedule along the way. I'll entertain a motion for item 17A.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any further discussion? Councilwoman McBride, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, thank you for that explanation because that helps me make my decision regarding voting.
Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next is item 18, Report of Administration and Finance Committee. Councilman Walker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Animals and Fowl. Staff recommends approval of revisions to Chapter 5. For the past year, Director Haynes and ACA Jensen have met with community stakeholders to discuss updates to our animal care ordinance, and so to keep the county current with changes in the community and evolving professional practices and technology, it was recommended that revisions be made addressing the tethering of pets, and those revisions would clarify as well as educate the public as well as enforcement officers on proper tethering methods, and would also reduce the number of pets that are injured or abused by improper tethering methods. So that is the recommendation of the committee.
A committee recommendation does not require a second. You're recognized, Councilwoman Newton.
Yes,
and Livingston.
thank you. Well, first, let me commend the staff because as many of us do, I get tons of questions about animal care and tethering, and passionate questions they are, and you're wonderful at answering them. I just have two quick questions about this ordinance. So one is on page 169, it talks about if the temperature is below 40 degrees Fahrenheit for a sustained 4-hour period, the animal may be tethered for 30 minutes in a consecutive 4-hour period, et cetera. And then it also goes on to talk about if the temperature is above 90 degrees. I just want to make sure I understand that this ordinance is saying if these temperature conditions are met, they can be outside and tethered for a brief amount of time. Do they have to be inside the rest of the amount of time?
No, they can be outside. They just have to meet the requirements.
That were before, okay.
Right.
Just wanted to be clear. And then the next question I have, on page 177, item B, it says, so this is in the event that a dog is in the animal care center, and it says that no fertile pet shall be redeemed unless the exceptions of section 5.3a have been met. And it's the health of the dog, it's that the dog is a licensed hunting dog, it's that they can demonstrate that the dog has been a show dog. My question here is, because this came up with someone in my district, would it be appropriate to add that if the dog is part of a licensed breeding facility, that we would not have to neuter or spay the dog to return it to its owner? That is, because presuming that it's licensed, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to.
Right. We did not take the commercial pet breeder into consideration into this because they have requirements that they have to meet.
Mm-hmm.
They need to keep their property in a manner that their pets can't get out and other pets can't get into them.
Okay.
So they're required to do the same as all other citizens to keep them confined.
Okay, so the presumption here is that this situation theoretically wouldn't happen because they wouldn't get out?
That is correct.
All right, well, I'll ponder that because I've seen some creative dogs.
Right,
Yes.
but still, even if their dog get out, it's a violation of the county ordinance.
Understood, but then we would then spay their pet or neuter their pet before we
Correct.
gave it back to them. Okay, I'll talk to you about this offline because this is just first reading, but that's a question that I have for you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Teratio, you recognize.
Thank you. Just wondering, and thank you for the meetings of all this year. I've had lots of conversations and lots of emails and things about this as well. Wanted to ask if these proposals that are brought before us now, do you anticipate that being kind of the culmination of your work, or do you anticipate kind of meetings and opportunities for improvement in the future or near future? Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense.
Okay.
I mean, we can continue to work on it or to make improvements, but for right now, this is what we have.
These are the recommendations that are
These
being
are-
brought forward after the
now.
culmination of the
Right.
year of meeting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Livingston, then Weaver, and then Walker.
I've received many comments from groups recently about spade, neuter, pet licensing program and so forth. Does this ordinance doesn't speak to that? That's something different from this ordinance?
Yes, that's different.
And that's
Right, we
something.
did not include anything concerning the mandatory spay neuter ordinance
Okay, or pet licensing.
or pet licensing.
Is that still a discussion somewhere? Or?
That is still in discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I'd like to follow up with what Councilwoman Newton said. So if I understand this correctly, so if we get a pet and we return it to the owner, it has to be spayed or neutered before they
If
get
it's
it back?
impounded, yes. But now,
What's the reason for that? Like, why wouldn't we give it back to them the way we got it?
well, that's the county ordinance. As you know, also, we hold the animals at the City of Columbia Animal Shelter,
Okay.
and that is one of their requirements.
That it can't be returned unless it's spayed or
Unless
neutered?
it's spayed or neutered, unless it meets one of the exemptions.
Wow, I never knew that. That seems kind of harsh.
Well, not really,
No?
no.
Yikes. I won't be sneaking out at night for sure.
So let's maintain decorum and not allow our meeting to go somewhere else.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Walker, I hope you have cleaner comments. Thank you.
Much cleaner.
Thank you.
No, I was just going to say that, the recommendations from staff, it's not something that developed in a vacuum. They worked on this for over a year. They worked with other stakeholders in the area to include the city, town of Irmo, town of Blythewood, the Richland County Sheriff's Department, and I think most importantly, the Humane Society has also offered their input as well.
Right,
So,
Humane Society, Palmetto Lifeline.
Yeah, Palmetto
We also
Lifeline.
had our own animal care subcommittee. They attended some of the meetings also.
So this has been a concerted and a collaborative effort between, local government as well as, nonprofits and the community. So for those, if you have concerns about the recommendations, just know that this is not, solely something that's coming from government, but entities in the community that work very closely, with animals.
Thank you. Other discussion?
One more.
Councilwoman Teresia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I believe for those folks who do not wish to spay or neuter their pet, presumably those folks would value their pet, or if they're breeding, would be invested enough in their pet to have a chip, and then the county would then know and be able to notify the owner quickly, and then the owner would be able to respond. We would, okay. And they would still be spayed or neutered unless they met one of the exemptions in the ordinance.
Well, if it has a microchip or a tag and we can identify it, we can call the owner before it's impounded.
Okay.
That's our policy. If the owner can meet the officer or meet them back at their house, they can get their dog back. Now, they may get a citation or a violation notice along with it, but that is one way of saving it from being impounded.
So if they have a responsive and responsible owner.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that concludes the discussion, ma'am.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English, Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Here. That concludes the report of the A&F Committee.
Next, number 19, Report of Rules and Appointments Committee. Councilwoman Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I provide the appointments, I do want to bring something to council's attention that was brought to my attention on today, and that is item 19A2, which is for the Planning Commission. We do have recommendations to go, to bring before the body. However, there's been some information that was disseminated to the Planning Commission with incorrect information. And I do feel that we owe it to those individuals who were serving on the Planning Commission to have an opportunity to apply if they choose to, because that is something that was a mistake on our behalf from a staff's perspective. So I will not be making a recommendation for the Planning Commission tonight, but we will take this back to the committee and offer the next opportunity when we do advertisements to add in the Planning Commission. So with that being said, the Rules and Appointment Committee makes a recommendation to appoint Alex Alderman for the Board of Zoning and Appeals.
Thank you. Heard the committee's recommendation. Discussion. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next is item 20, report of the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee. Councilwoman Teratio, you're recognized.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Let me get to that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So in our meeting, the only action that we took was to create the definition of affordable housing. And we stated that affordable housing is a continuum of equitable, inclusive, and quality rental and homeownership opportunities for people at every income level, which is critical for creating safe, complete, and thriving communities. We did have further discussion around the scope and our budget, and we will meet again in May to discuss those items. No action is needed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, you're right.
Sorry, I did have a question about the scope of work. The scope in item B specifically mentions that you directed the administrator to explore opportunities for home ownership and down payment. I guess I just want to make sure that that doesn't mean that the scope of the committee excludes other activities that promote affordable housing, like encouraging the building of stock, et cetera. It's just recounting one specific action item for the administrator.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, it's your committee, you're recognized.
Yes, and we certainly anticipate staff bringing us some more options in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Does that conclude your report?
Madam Chair,
Attorney Wright, you recognize.
I think that the body does need to vote on these items that the committee brought up to approve.
Sorry, I guess some action is needed. To approve the definition, our scope, and budget. Question though, given that we anticipate this not being as limited a scope, should we defer B?
If you want to potentially change it, you can defer that.
Madam Chair, I would like to bring forward items A and C and defer B until after our next meeting.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You've heard the committee's recommendation. Yes, Councilmember Branham, you're recognized.
Thank you. So if we're going to vote on C, I don't feel like we got to C as far as a presentation from the chair or what we're voting on there.
Madam Chair, thank you. Currently, the only funds that are allocated for affordable housing are the $4 million currently in the general fund that have not been allocated. We have not explored future opportunities yet for funding, but have simply asked the administrator to look into what future funding sources could be.
Madam Chair. So, Chairman Mackey.
Yes.
So do we really need to vote on anything on item C then? It's just,
I mean, according to Attorney Wright, he stated that her committee needs to bring forward items A and C. So that is what she's doing per direction of the attorney.
hear from the attorney again?
If there's something that the committee wants to bring forward, it needs to be voted on by the body. If that's something that you want to defer as well, they can do that and just vote on the official definition. But unless you defer it, it needs to be voted on by the body.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'm seeing other folks who might want to speak.
Ms. English, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering what our balance is in that fund. I thought and I could be wrong, I thought we voted to approve some of those funds of that $4 million. I'm not clear what the final balance is.
So, Ms. English, no funds have been spent in this category. So the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee was created so that council can develop our scope moving forward and how we plan to expend those one-time funds that we allocated. So nothing has been expended at this time. Councilwoman Terratio did hold the first ad hoc committee meeting, and as you see, some of the things they discussed about a definition and how to start moving things forward so that we can take action. Council, you're welcome. Councilwoman Terratio, so am I hearing that you want to defer items A, B, and C, and this was just merely an update tonight where no action was needed, and you'll defer these until after your next committee meeting?
Well, Madam Chair, I would like to move forward with item A. Since that was voted on specifically by the committee, and I think that we are kind of ready to move on from that.
All right, you've heard the recommendation from the committee. We are voting on A. Mr. Branham.
Have some discussion on that before we vote.
Definition is there.
So I guess I'm boiling down in part and paraphrasing the definition of affordable housing, quality rental and homeownership opportunities for people at every income level. And so if I'm making like $1 a year, we're gonna say that person, whatever housing they should be able to afford. They should be able to afford housing? Is that what I'm understanding from the definition?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So this is a definition that was worked on at length by the City of Columbia, a large group of stakeholders, and people who are very much invested in affordable housing here. To your very specific point about if someone has that level of income, they are probably not going to spend 33 cents or less on their housing. They are much more likely to have housing in some other way. This is really to look at people of all income levels, specifically noting that folks who are working full-time jobs, making minimum wage, making medium wages, are still having hard times finding decent, affordable places to live. And certainly even people that we might even consider having a higher income might have trouble finding places to live. And so the work of affordable housing is making sure that there is a decent supply of housing so that the market can bear everyone that needs housing.
Madam Chair.
Recognize Councilman Branham.
I definitely want everyone to be able to have housing. I support the desire there. I guess I don't agree with the definition as it's stated, so I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please.
Brenham,
No?
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English, Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Madam Teratio,
That concludes my report.
next is item 21, report of the Detention Center Ad Hoc Committee. Councilman Pugh, you recognize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On March the 19th, my colleagues saw fit to vote me in as chair of the ad hoc committee once again this year, and I want to thank them. We also got a update for the Detention Center Ad Hoc Committee from Mr. Brown. Madam Chair, would you mind recognizing Mr. Brown so we can speak to the locking mechanisms, where we are with the locking mechanisms at the detention center?
Recognize Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of council, one of the things I shared during that committee process was that the renovation project related to Alumnae Glen Detention Center, 252 locks have been fully upgraded to the Willow Wedge locking system. You may recall this is the locking system that replaces the pneumatic locking system that we have, which simply means that our old system pushed air in order to affect the locking system. This is an electronic upgraded system that represents of the 448 locks that have to be completed, 56% project completion rate. And that was at the last reporting of this committee. And so that is the information, Mr. Pugh, Chair Pugh of the Detention Ad Hoc Committee related to the locks. We did also just talk about that we did have 4 of those housing units were the only units that were remaining. So of the housing units that we have, we only have 4 housing units remaining to have locks upgraded, and that would be the remainder of the 448 locks. So we are very happy that we can move forward with that project, Mr. Pugh, and that does reflect the update on the locking system.
Madam Chair, I would like to thank Mr. Brown and his staff for working at this project diligently, and that completes my report, ma'am.
Thank you. Next is item 22, report of the Community Grants Ad Hoc Committee. If you look in page 248 of your packet, the committee met and reviewed our fiscal year 25 community partner grants request. As council members remember, with our community impact grants, we have 2 sections. We have our community partners, which is an identified list of organizations that we all have voted on and have deemed them community partners. And then we have a separate, which is the open portion of grant funding award amounts of up to $50,000 each. So we took action on the first part, our community partners list. On page 248, you will see a table that shows the amount requested for each organization as well as the committee recommended amounts. So that concludes my report, and I would open it up for any questions. Mr. Livingston, you recognize.
Is there a motion? I'll wait for a motion.
Well, coming out of committee, you don't need a second, so my report was the recommendation of approval from the committee.
Thank you, and I would love to be recognized. I am a member of that committee, and I did not vote to support the recommendation of the committee. And the primary reason for that is because of my grave concern in terms of its impact on the funding for senior resources, which is Richland County's designated agency for senior services. What's being proposed is a significant decrease in the budget of senior resources from last year. Resources budget and request was $548,000 from these funds as it was last year. The recommendation is significantly less than that. Now, we talk about an agency, at least in my opinion, that is already significantly unfunded in terms of its services to our county, and even more so relative to its counterparts. You know, for example, Richland County has less senior citizens. You know, they have they're part of their recreation commission where they get which is a special service district, which get recurring funding of some $3.5 million a year. You got, Fairfield and Newberry and those counties are part of their budget, their direct line item in their budgets, and they're funded very well. When we were doing lump sums, this agency was receiving back as far as 2019 or 2018, some $548,000. Now, we're talking about giving them significantly less than that this year when they have a long waiting list. And not only that, you may recall we had a Lurie Senior Center, which I think we was funding somewhere around $200,000 or $180,000. Remember, they folded, and Senior Resources actually took over some of their responsibilities for that particular agency. And we still talk about a significant cut relative to these other agencies. I just think that that's, very unfortunate in terms of the impact it's going to have on our senior citizens. We already have a significantly waiting list for service for senior citizens. When we're talking about, like I said, an agency that's designated for senior resources, they use our funds to get matching funds from other agencies. I just think this is going to impact this agency so bad, and it's going to be so crucial to the seniors in our community relative to other similar agencies that I just couldn't support the recommendation because of this, what I would consider a tremendous impact on senior citizens in our community. And would recommend that we fund them at the $548,000 we did last year. For the last.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. I appreciate your comments and recommendations. As you know, the funding for community partners, as agreed upon by this body, is a set amount. And so recommending that an organization receives a funding amount different than what the committee recommends requires additional motions be made to figure out how you get there without going with a dollar amount. So do you have any other additional language for your recommendation besides funding them at their full amount?
No, I do not. That's my only concern as relates to the committee's recommendation is for them to be funded at that amount.
Councilwoman Barron, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I totally agree with Mr. Livingston in part. And I shared this in the committee meeting. I am a big supporter of senior resources and the work that they do. And when we decided as a council that we would have our community partners and there would be a set amount of money set aside for this group, I knew that it was going to be a hard task for us to do, and even trying to fund organizations that I believe are pillars in our community, and really serve a very vulnerable population in our community. And I support the recommendation coming out of the committee, and I will do so again tonight. But I would like to take it a step further that if indeed this body feels as though senior resources is just that for us in Richland County, then we probably need to look at our general fund budget and look at other ways to fund them so that we don't have to, because when we sat down at the committee meeting, it was like, let's make a deal kind of thing. We were trying to get to a particular number. We were trying to make sure that we covered all of our community partners who had applied and to give them a significant amount of money. And so whereas we didn't give them the full amount, we did give them probably right at half. We really were trying. We were really trying to give, it's more than half. We were really trying to give them as much as we could because we don't want to see, to see this deficit in this organization. So I want to say it again, that I know many of you feel the way I feel, the way Mr. Livingston feels. And so if that is the case, as we move into our budget cycle, then I think that we need to start funding our priorities. And there are lots of other things in our budget that, personally speaking, we could move around a little bit and do some things differently. So let's keep that same energy, as they say, when it's time for us to go to budget, and to see if we can really support this partner at the level of the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. I would like to speak, I guess, a little bit about senior resources, but also our nonprofit support holistically. As an entire body, we went through a process where we said we wanted to have transparency and accountability, and we created this process where all nonprofits had to apply for application, or put in an application to receive money. We also then said, okay, we want to establish community partners, and we agreed on that percentage. The community partners, the organizations that got voted on to be in this list, that was the body saying, these are the ones that we picked. Between last year and this year, folks added additional groups to the community partners list. The amount of money stayed the same. So we already know if you add more people and the pot stays the same, somebody's not getting the same. That's one. Two, I understand we have supported senior resources for many, many years. And I think we need to acknowledge we have done it for many, many years at an amount over $500,000. We don't have some departments at Richland County where we staff that receive $500,000 in their budget. We have some other nonprofits that ask us for $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 to go directly into a community and change people's lives one-on-one right then. They're not using the money to leverage it and get additional money. They're going right into a community to make that change. And so I agree senior resources is important. I do agree. But I also feel as if that is the case, then what the money that is here, that is what we should be looking to change, not go into our general fund. As a body, we have a strategic plan with other initiatives that we need to focus on, and we need to continue to work towards those, not looking at how we can give more away to an organization that is already receiving or has been receiving over $500,000 from us for, I would say, maybe 10 years. So I say, if that is the case, at the community partners list that we have before us, we can reduce other nonprofits, and if folks feel that strongly about senior resources, then give them the money out of the pot that we currently have, and then decide right now that the Urban League, that the Chamber of Commerce, that Oliver Gospel, Pathways to Healing, that they are not priorities. That is a decision that I think needs to be made, not going to our general fund to continue to find additional money. Councilwoman Bride, you recognize.
Thank you. As you know how I feel about the grant process, and much improvement has been made. And even though I didn't get everything I wanted, sometimes you plant a seed. And I think that I planted a seed, and I have seen some success in it. However, I still have concerns regarding the priorities, and that we're still not meeting the unique needs of our districts, and that there should be an allocation to ensure that each district gets an adequate amount of funding, or an equitable amount of funding. There are many programs out there that are struggling, and they didn't submit a grant. Some of them didn't hear about it because they're not involved in that grant process. Others don't rank high enough and know how to write grants. So I still think that we are overlooking a large percentage or a percentage of nonprofits that work directly in the community that are addressing the needs of the community without any funds. So with that said, I'm still concerned about the process, and I go along with the discretionary process. But I still need to think that we need to think about making sure that each district is receiving funds to address at least some of the unique needs of that district. In terms of, I've had this conversation many times about lump funding and general funding. If it were not for the General Assembly, there would be so many programs within Richland County that receive 0 cents. But because the General Assembly allows their senators and representatives to address the needs of their communities through these lump sum funds, that's how they address those needs. Richland County had that process in place, and I'm gonna say a prayer so I won't get out of line, and it was changed. So I think we need to go back and look at making sure that there's equity, some type of equity, in ensuring that all communities are receiving, all districts are receiving some funds. And if senior resources need the funds, then if they can justify the funding, and we can look at it, because I heard some names you call that I can't understand how they're receiving funding. And that's listed on there. And we established partners, but there was no criteria to determine who was among the partners. Were they here 10 years, 15 years, where there is an evaluation? We need to look at our partners and determine with some set criteria how we're going to select those partners. So with that said, I thank the staff for the work that they've done in improving the overall grant process. I thank the committee for the work that they've done, but I still don't think that we can just close somebody out because we said this amount of money is set. We have to look at the needs and look at all the projects that we're addressing. So that's my take on it.
Ms. Livingston, you recognize?
Let me try to explain to my colleagues why I raised this point. If you look at page 248 in your packet, this is the sheet that we were working from when we were looking at these particular community partners. And my concern was, if you look at this list, what you'll find is that the only agency out of all those agencies that was significantly decreased was senior resources. And that was my concern. Now, one would say, well, but we're giving them $500,000. Well, relative to what others do for the senior citizens and those agencies that are their designated agency for their county, that's peanuts. Like I just said to y'all, Lexington County do about $3.5 million. Irmo got what? Probably less than 20,000, whatever, 330,000. So it's all relative when you're talking about the amount. That is significant difference from what we do for our seniors in Richland County. That is just my basic concern. And I will come back before this body during the budget process to make sure we don't treat it as a regular nonprofit and treat it just like others. Put it in, make it a line item in our budget, or make it, figure out a way to get our legislature to somebody to make it a special purpose district. But it deserves more attention than it gets and more funding that we're giving it. That's all. That's all that I'm saying, and I think it's significant, and I think it's a disgrace to our county for what we're doing for our seniors. This is the best we can do.
I will say, I'm glad to hear you feel that way. I wish that would have been expressed before we went through this entire process as a committee. I'm
did mention that in
disappointed.
the committee meeting, but unfortunately,
No, sir,
I didn't have
you did not.
I didn't have all the information I have.
Yeah, you did not mention in the committee that you thought it was a disgrace that we didn't fund senior resources. You did not mention in the committee.
I didn't say disgrace. I was saving that, and because I didn't have all the numbers that I have now, so I didn't have the reason to say it.
I know, but it's just I don't want it to be made as if that's what we're doing. That was never anybody's intention, and definitely not mine. So as chair of the committee, and one that's a strong supporter of the applications process, the intent that behind your words as if that is what we're trying to do to punish senior resources or not fully support them is not true. That is not true at all. However, it is our responsibility as we collect taxpayers' dollars to be mindful and responsible of how we're spending over $500,000. And I do think your examples are apples to oranges. So when you talk about what Lexington County is doing, yes, they do support and have a different setup for their Council of Aging and what they do. You said yourself that Senior Resources takes over the $500,000 we give them and they use it to leverage to get money from other places. We do not have stats on how many residents in Richland County they serve with the funds that we give them, or if it only goes to feed them. We do not know. And so I feel before we sit here and make it seem as if council members are performing a disgrace, we should know all the facts of how Senior Resources is spending over $500,000 of taxpayers' money. And as if we don't continue to give them, that we're making a poor decision and we don't care. That is not true. And again, I say, there's a lot of talk of what shouldn't be done, but you don't want to make a solution about the current funding that is in the committee. So now it's, well, let's go to the general fund. That defeats the entire purpose of the committee. Any further discussion? Councilman Branham.
Thank you. I just want to thank the committee for the work they've done. I've definitely participated a lot over the last several months, and, you know, certainly there are difficult choices that have to be made, but again, I'm just grateful for the discipline exhibited and trying to exercise some responsibility, you know, with the county's funds.
Councilwoman English.
And I also just want just to go on record to say that the ARPA dollars that were there previously are no longer there. And so last year, and the amount is there is more than they got. It's less than they received, but it was because of the balance of those ARPA dollars. And so those dollars made a huge difference in how we were trying to come up with this, and it wasn't easy. I know me and Councilwoman Gretchen Barron just kept saying it was a very difficult decision. It was a hard meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Recognize Councilman Walker.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I may have forgotten it. We'll see if it comes back to me. But I do have a question. It was important too.
The whole, you want us to come back?
Yeah, hold for about 5 seconds.
Okay.
It should come back to me.
Madam
You
Chair.
go back to the dog issue, I think.
Madam Chair.
So, okay, yeah, let's come back to me now. So do we have any nonprofits that are being funded by the county from other funding sources? Currently, nonprofits.
Meaning, for example, hospitality grants or accommodations, is that what you mean?
Just any other funding source. I'm curious about that.
Give me an example of a funding source other than what I just named.
I don't know. I mean,
General fund?
no, I'm talking about, but any other funding source from the county. I know general fund, hospitality tax,
So-
anything. I mean,
Yes, sir. So
I'm
we
curious,
have other
is there?
nonprofits that are funded by hospitality tax, right? We all have those open all the time where you can submit.
Okay.
Yeah.
But of course that.
Yeah, community development,
but of
block
course
grants,
that,
yeah.
Right, but of course that with H-Tax, that promotes tourism or what have you, community development, that promotes community development. And so, because I'm wondering if we're looking at, or if we take Mr. Livingston up on his suggestion of finding another source, funding source, say for Senior Resources, does that undermine the purpose of the Community Impact Grant Committee? It's my understanding that the purpose of the committee was for nonprofits that are doing work in the community to go through a process. And I get Ms. McBride's point about, going back to lump sum, where you just, it's almost like a free-for-all. And I don't say that condescendingly. Well, that's why I say I don't say it condescendingly. Ms. McBride. But the intent was to sort of streamline the process whereby groups could seek funding from the county. And so I just wonder if we were to look for another funding source for senior resources, would that undermine the process that was really almost a 2-year, almost like a 2-year endeavor to actually get this off the ground?
Yes, sir, that's completely what it does, and that is, what Mr. Livingston mentioned of planning to address this during the budget. I mean, that is completely what it does. Yes, sir.
And I guess the other question or thought that I have is, it's my understanding that the point behind community impact grants, that committee, was so that we would not have organizations who found themselves dependent on county dollars, but county dollars would serve more so as almost an ancillary role, as opposed to dollars that they would rely on to operate or what have you. And so I'm not saying that Mr. Livingston is saying this, but sort of what I gather from the tenor of his comments and maybe some others is that this is a precipitous drop and is going to have an adverse effect on senior resources' ability to, I guess, deliver these services. And I thought that was the very thing that the county wanted to avoid, was not so much propping up an organization, but an organization relying on the county to do the work that is in their charter or that is, the aim of their organization.
I mean, I think one might say that is a secondary result of the committee. Initially, I believe the aim was to create transparency in a process that all could follow. And, I still would point out again, Councilman Walker, that the total amount of funding that was agreed for the Community Impact Grant Committee was split 60-40. 60 for community partners. And I say, if there is money in this 60% to fund senior resources, but that requires you to not fund some others. And I think as a body, we have to understand we cannot fund everybody. So if everybody feels that way, then pick who else do you not want to fund from your community partners list. And what I'm hearing is that folks don't want to make that decision. Every time someone asks, they want to give them everything they ask. And by doing so, I don't think we're being responsible and thinking about how we need to fund the county moving forward. And by fund the county, I mean when we start talking about dipping into our general fund, we're impacting our staff and the ability and the services that we need to provide and are expected to provide in a growing county. When we talk about Scout and all that's coming, that requires additional service. That requires us to be able to pay wages. That requires us to be able to hire more people. That requires money. This isn't $10,000 more we're talking about.
I believe we've earmarked $1 million for the community impact grant.
You're correct.
Right? So,
yes, sir.
It's like $1.8 million, whatever the value of $1 million is.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. You recognize Councilman Weaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, in the interest of time, so we are still on number 22?
We are still there. Can you believe it?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we...
Well, sir...
Can I make a motion to call the question, and with all due respect to Mr. Livingston's concerns, we still have an opportunity to bring back additional senior resources under the budget, correct? No?
You always have that option.
We always have that option. All right, well, then I say we call the question on number 22 and move on. We still have more things on the agenda tonight.
Madam Clerk, the question has been called.
Was there a second?
Oh, I thought I heard somebody, I'm sorry. You weren't seconding, you were saying something?
No, I want to make this one final comment. Based on, just.
Wait a minute now. Mr. Weaver,
hold on.
Nobody seconded your call, so Mr. Livingston now has more he wants to say.
I just want to quickly respond to,
I think you're out of order, Mr. Livingston.
He called for the question. It was seconded, so it has to be voted
We need
on.
to call for the question, Mr. Livingston.
I thought you didn't have a second.
No, they.
You got a second.
I thought you said you didn't have a second.
I didn't think we needed a second, but.
But he called for the question, so it must be voted on.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion approved.
What to say? Oh, we need to vote again.
Voted.
Sorry.
For the call
Okay,
for the question.
go ahead. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. That concludes the Community Grants Ad Hoc Committee. Number 23, report of the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee. Councilman Walker, you recognize.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is item 23A, the Atlas Road rescoping. This can be found on pages 249 through 255 in your packet. Their committee recommends restoring the scope of the Atlas Road widening from Bluff Road to Shop Road, and this has a projected budget of $12 million. That's the recommendation of
You've heard the recommendation of the committee. Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair.
Recognize.
I see Ms. Newton sort of nodding her head, so I think she wants to be recognized.
I only want to be recognized when it's time to move to defer item 23B. So if that time is now, I'll make a motion. Otherwise, I will wait for the chairman of the committee to make his report.
Already
I
sort of
moved.
intimated. so-
All right, I move to defer item 23B until our next meeting.
We have a motion and a second for deferral of item 23B. Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
No.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair, that concludes the report of the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Pugh, you recognize.
Point of privilege, ma'am.
Yes.
I would like to encourage my colleagues, especially when we have pressing issues, to attend the ad hoc committee meetings. It makes things a whole lot easier. Thank you, ma'am.
Next is item 24, other items, 24A.
Move
Fiscal
to-
year,
Approve.
motion for approval.
Second.
Second. Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron, Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Madam Chair,
Recognized.
move to reconsider.
Second.
Motion and second for reconsideration. Madam Clerk.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Madam Chair,
Recognized, Council.
I have a question. Does item 23A need to be reconsidered? That's
That is the Atlas Road rescoping.
Does that need to be reconsidered?
It can wait until the next meeting since it's next week.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you. We're now at 25 executive session items. So we have item A and C from earlier. Attorney Wright, recognized.
That's correct. Those two items need to go into executive session.
Thank you. And outside counsel is not required.
No.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
move to go into executive session.
We have a motion and a second for
Second.
executive session. Madam Clerk?
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
No.
Barron, Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English, Newton. Motion approved.
We're now in executive session. Of executive session.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Brenham. Yes. Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston. Yes. Teratio. Weaver.
Yes.
Barron. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. We are now at executive session. No action was taken in executive session. Next item is item 26, motion period. I did not receive any motions ahead of the meeting today. And last item is item 27.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second for adjournment. Madam Clerk?
Brenham.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.